Saladin, the immortal hero of the Islamic world, a fearsome foe whose glorious conquests changed the course of human history. No words can fully describe the greatness of this individual. However, all the achievements of this mighty king were accomplished after the departure of a remarkable talent, a figure considered to be a lifelong obsession of Saladin, King Baldwin IV, the Leper King of Jerusalem. The greatest triumph of King Baldwin IV, the Battle of Montgisard, where he confronted Saladin's Muslim forces. It was the first and greatest victory of his short life. Despite suffering from the debilitating effects of leprosy and succumbing to death at the age of only 24, King Baldwin is still regarded as a legendary figure in Christianity and the world at large. So, how did a king afflicted by leprosy manage to become a savior of the Catholic faith, accomplishing remarkable feats? Let me show you. The Leper King of Jerusalem. The moniker, the Leper King, originates from the terrible disease that afflicted Baldwin IV. Leprosy ravaged his nervous system and limbs, yet it didn't diminish his greatness. Born and raised within the royal Jerusalem family, Baldwin exhibited qualities of a true military leader from a young age. It was not surprising that he was destined to become the next king of the Holy City. People across religious lands awaited the appearance of a savior. However, this perception changed when Baldwin's tutor, William of Tyre, discovered that the future king was unable to feel pain. The young prince did not cry even when other children hurt him. Initially, this was seen as a sign of royal strength, but soon it became evident that Baldwin had lost sensation in his arm, a classic symptom of leprosy, an incurable disease during that time. Amidst a world filled with mythological tales and superstitions, Baldwin's ailment was perceived as divine punishment. Even Muslims asserted that this disease was Allah's retribution upon the infidels who dared to occupy Jerusalem. Even Christian believers thought they were being punished by God. When the leader of Jerusalem was afflicted by this disease, they knew their kingdom was on the brink of collapse. The revelation of the young prince's ailment led to deep conflicts within Jerusalem's court. However, just 4 years after that fateful day, Baldwin ascended the throne following his father King Amalric's assassination. Now, the people of Jerusalem awaited the rise of a new hero. Ascending the throne at the tender age of 13, Baldwin faced challenges far beyond the usual trials of adolescence. For no country could be ruled by a child, especially one suffering from a debilitating disease. In 1174, shortly after assuming power, a strong wave of opposition emerged against a disabled ruler. A relative of Baldwin, Miles, saw a rare opportunity to seize power. However, despite his leprosy, Baldwin continually strategized to regain power. Within just 2 years after losing power to Miles, he managed to reclaim his throne with the help of his loyal associate Raymond, who would later lead the ill-fated Second Crusade and face defeat against Saladin. In 1176, Baldwin officially held authority over Jerusalem once again. His first decision was to sign a truce with Saladin to stabilize the internal situation. However, the Leper King knew that a man as ambitious and conquest-driven as Saladin could only be dealt with through force. The subsequent events proved Baldwin's insights correct. Despite the peace treaty, Saladin continued to roam freely through Jerusalem's territories, undermining any hope for peace. Though Baldwin's advisors urged restraint, he knew that only force could resolve the situation with a power-hungry Saladin. A few years later, Baldwin unilaterally terminated the peace treaty and planned to settle all feuds with Saladin by violence. For Saladin, Baldwin IV had long been a thorn in his side. With the opportunity at hand, Saladin saw no reason to decline a decisive battle. He swiftly amassed a force of 26,000 elite soldiers and his personal bodyguard, aiming to conquer Jerusalem. Baldwin anticipated this and orchestrated a cunning trap. By sending troops out of Jerusalem, causing Saladin to attack and then ambush the capital Damascus, Baldwin created a situation where Saladin had to distract himself. This clash marked the first encounter between the two genius rulers. Though no clear military actions occurred on Saladin's side, Baldwin's strategy demonstrated his prowess on the battlefield. The Battle of Montgisard. Continuing the momentum from the siege of Damascus, Baldwin routed Saladin's forces in Lebanon and Syria. Yet, Baldwin's ambitions extended beyond these victories. He aimed to completely defeat Saladin and bring peace to Christianity. Recognizing that Saladin's strength was rooted in Egypt, Baldwin crafted a masterful plan to invade Egypt. Forming an alliance with the Byzantine Empire, Baldwin's plan sought to strike directly at Saladin's core forces stationed in Cairo and Giza, while the Byzantine navy posed a perfect complement to Jerusalem's limited naval capabilities. However, as the campaign progressed, misfortune struck. Baldwin's key commander, William of Montferrat, and subsequently Baldwin himself, fell seriously ill. The Byzantine court, concerned by the turn of events, withdrew support for that military campaign. While Jerusalem faced challenges due to Byzantine withdrawal and Baldwin's ailing health, Saladin seized the opportunity. He quickly assembled a force of 26,000 troops and continued his quest for conquest. Engaging in battles across Ramla, Lydda, and Arsuf, Saladin's forces instilled terror among Christian believers. Bloodshed stained the streets of Jerusalem as the faithful suffered. This battle no longer carried the nature of a defensive war for the homeland. It had transformed into a battle for faith, for God, and for the honor of an entire religion. Given the circumstances, Baldwin decided to confront Saladin head-on, resulting in a monumental clash. The odds were overwhelming for Baldwin. 600 knights and a few thousand local soldiers faced off against Saladin's force of 26,000. Baldwin was deaf, paralyzed in his right hand, and had to hold a sword in his left hand. Courageously led his men into battle. His spirit and determination inspired his troops, symbolizing their faith in divine intervention. Initiating a surprise attack, Baldwin caught Saladin's forces off guard. Saladin quickly organized his forces to defend against the unexpected assault. Yet, Saladin's actions aligned perfectly with Baldwin's plan. To counter a significant larger adversary, Baldwin chose to preemptively engage Saladin before he could reach Jerusalem, catching the enemy off guard and exploiting the precise moment when Saladin's forces were fatigued and not yet arranged in battle formation. Baldwin aimed to confront Saladin before he reached Jerusalem, disrupt his forces, and then set a trap. This strategy unnerved Saladin, and he was forced to halt his advance and regroup his troops. The Christian army remained utterly silent. King Baldwin issued an order to bring forward the relic of the Holy Cross, revered and sacred, at the forefront of the entire ranks. With a body afflicted by a horrifying illness, the young king dismounted with the assistance of his loyal pair of bodyguards and knelt before the Holy Cross. He fervently prayed for divine intervention to grant them victory and to stand on his own feet, encouraging his troops. Baldwin engaged in combat despite his leprous condition, leading the charge with bandaged hands and mounting pain. The Christian forces surged like a landslide against the disoriented Muslim troops, desperately trying to form defensive lines. Jerusalem's warriors overwhelmed the enemy, despite their overwhelming numbers. The Battle of Montgisard ended in a resounding victory for the forces of Jerusalem. A miraculous victory led by a king who defied his physical limitations and inspired his troops to triumph over overwhelming odds. Saladin's army was in disarray, and his forces were decimated. Saladin himself narrowly escaped on his best racing camel. The elite Kasaki guards were nearly wiped out, and Saladin's nephew was killed in battle. The relentless Christian attack and Baldwin's leadership turned the tide of battle. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Christians routed Saladin's forces and secured a stunning victory. Baldwin, with his unwavering resolve and courage, had triumphed over the mighty Saladin. The Battle of Montgisard showcased the power of faith, determination, and strategic brilliance. King Baldwin emerged victorious in a complete triumph, utterly decimating the invading forces. He ordered his soldiers to pursue Saladin relentlessly until nightfall, and then withdrew to rest in Ascalon. The eternal nightmare of Saladin. 10 days later, there were 10 days of heavy rain. Saladin's defeated army now numbered only 2,000, struggling to endure hunger and thirst, forced to resort to pillaging for their return to Egypt. Saladin's battle-hardened troops suffered their bitter first defeat in their ambitious conquest career. The battle made the mighty Muslim army terror. Even Saladin was obsessed with the figure of the king who wearing full-face armor. Confronting an age-old rival, the aspirations of the Muslim monarch seemed destined to never materialize. The ailing king reigning over Jerusalem was the first and only one to make the immortal Saladin taste bitter defeat. Upon knowing of the health condition of the Jerusalem king, Saladin decided to advance for vengeance. But when Saladin heard that Baldwin was still lying on a stretcher to go to the front lines to command the Jerusalem army, Saladin quickly withdrew his troops. The Muslim warrior's ambition to seize this territory was compelled to halt, waiting until the passing of Baldwin IV for Saladin to fulfill his life's aspiration. In the following year, on May 16, 1185, King Baldwin IV passed away after a prolonged battle with a dreadful illness at the age of 24. The demise of this talented king signified the collapse of Jerusalem's final defensive wall, attributed to the weak leadership of Baldwin's successor. Only 2 years later, Jerusalem fell to the power of the Muslim warriors. Subsequent historians believe that, had King Baldwin lived, the Kingdom of Jerusalem would have endured for a much longer period, rather than collapsing as rapidly as it did. World history has seen anecdotes, legends of famous kings, and King Baldwin is no exception. Despite being plagued by illness and lifelong struggles, the life of King Baldwin IV remains an enduring and timeless saga. So, what are your thoughts on this enigmatic king? Share your opinions in the comments section below.